Here we go, Billy. Episode 2. No, episode 3. Episode 2 that's going to work because episode 1 did not work. Welcome, everybody, to our little show. This is Billy, my co-host, and I am Toby Blake. I'm a baby growing medicine woman, learning all I can about earth medicine and about healing, and here to share everything I've learned with you. And Billy's here to add cuteness and love and Reiki and wisdom. She loves to do Reiki. She's a big helper, huh? Yeah. Let's see. So this is Take Your Medicine, a show where I share my medicine with you, and Billy shares her medicine with you. I'm Billy. What do I mean by medicine? I mean my essence, my soul, my healing, my heart with you. It's taken me a really long time to come to a sense of who I am and what my purpose is. And now that I feel like I figured it out, I'm ready to share it. I keep noticing that I'm looking at the top of the tripod instead of at the actual camera, so it looks like I'm like being interviewed. So sorry if my eyes keep going back and forth. I need to get used to looking here. Anyway, let's see. Yesterday, what did we do yesterday? I took my oldest son to a go-karting place in Scottsdale, and that was really fun. He is a really skilled driver, and he is really competitive with it, and it's really fun to watch him. So he was on the leaderboard for the top 10 of the entire week for the place that we went, and he shaved a half a second off of his highest time. So that was really fun, and we got some dinner. Today I get to talk to my soul sister and best friend, Iggy. She is a life-changing friendship in my world, and I love her so much. She's helped me immensely through this very difficult season of my life, where there are definitely days during this season of my life where it's really hard for me to want to get out of bed and want to keep going. And so friendships like Iggy's have been such a blessing to me. I'm so grateful for her. And also I get to go on a date, woo, with my hot husband. Woo! Date night, high five. Yeah, girl. Yeah, girl. Not sure what we're gonna be doing, but I hope a glass of Chardonnay is involved. And that's about it for us. What else? It's gonna be kind of a short episode today, I think. I really have been studying a lot from Eckhart Tolle, and I wanted to share a little bit of what I've learned from him. His book, A New Earth, I have it right here. A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle is my favorite book of all time. And it's hard to choose because I have a lot of wonderful books. I am a big believer in reading, and I'm pretty obsessed with learning. I love to learn more. I love to grow myself, and knowledge is power. So I like to get more power. Anyway, he really teaches us how to get in touch with ourselves, how to claim happiness for ourselves, how to heal our lives, and how to recognize our oneness with all that is. And I was reading earlier this morning about the ego and the way that the ego causes us an immense amount of suffering in our lives. The ego is, honestly, another word for the ego is the personality. And the personality is a construct that is created by outside forces that we start to confuse as who we are. And so the work of awakening and the work of healing is really all about going through your life and seeing what has been placed there by external forces. And in order to do that, you have to get really quiet and still with yourself. My best spirit guide friend, my closest friend, interdimensional friend named Jesus Kate, she teaches me that discomfort is different than suffering. Discomfort is inevitable in life. It's the growing mechanism. There is always going to be the unknown, and the unknown, it can be scary. Change is uncomfortable. I've always told my children that growth happens outside of the comfort zone. So when you're doing the same thing over and over and over every day, which is what we mostly do, we wake up at the same time, we eat a similar breakfast, we go to the same job, we have the same conversations with the same people, we come home, we watch our shows, we eat our dinner, blah, 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 rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And we're keeping hoping things are different, hoping things are different. But what creates a real change in your life is to start to recognize these patterns and start to get outside of our comfort zone and changing them and breaking up those patterns. One thing that I've been doing this week to break up my comfort zone is these videos. This is way outside of my comfort zone, but here I am doing it like a badass. Huh, Billy? And another thing I've been doing this week that's outside of my comfort zone is getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going walking with my sons. Jonah and I have been on 2 walks this week so far. My son Anthony and I have been on one early morning walk. It's been so nice here in Arizona. It's like 75 degrees out today. So freaking wonderful and beautiful. I love it here. And it's hard. It's really freaking hard. I have anxiety before I go to bed about waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I don't want to do it. I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but this feeling of dread. But everything is difficult until it is easy. And so we just have to break out these old patterns and start to do something different. And in order to do that, we have to create some awareness of the patterns that we're in. So I would like to read a little bit from Eckhart Tolle, if that is okay with you, Billy. Because I feel like the human species as a collective in general is just really stuck in a pattern of suffering. And we really think that all of life is suffering, that we have no other way to be but to suffer, and that we are at the mercy of what is happening in our lives to relieve the suffering. And that is just not true. That is an illusion. It's a lie that our happiness exists outside of us. And we have to really get in tune with ourselves to find and unlock true happiness and peace. So Eckhart Tolle says, a person in the grip of ego does not recognize suffering as suffering, but will look upon it as the only appropriate response in any given situation. I find that to be really true in my own life. I used to be extremely negative, and I used to look at myself as a victim in every situation and look at the negative in everything that was happening. And it gave me some kind of value to be powerful against the negativity. Like if I'm recognizing the negativity, I have some kind of power, but that's a lie. It's an illusion. The ego, in its blindness, is incapable of seeing the suffering it inflicts on itself and on others. Unhappiness is an ego-created mental emotional disease that has reached epidemic proportions. Would you say that's true of the human species? I mean, it's literally an epidemic of unhappiness. There's depression is just on the rise since the pandemic. It's even been worse. Loneliness, isolation, a feeling of not being seen, not being appreciated. We're all struggling. It is the inner equivalent of the environmental pollution of our planet. Everything is connected. We are the earth. And if you look at the earth and how it is suffering, We are suffering in very similar ways. We are struggling out here. So, whenever there is negativity in you, if you can be aware at that moment that there is something in you that takes pleasure in it or believes it has a useful purpose, you are becoming aware of the ego directly. This is major. This is so big. It's really one of the most difficult parts of the awakening process is having the courage to see the value you've placed on your own suffering, on your own victimhood. In my own life, I have struggled with depression, severe depression, the majority of my life since I was a small child. And in order to relieve myself of that and alleviate that from my life, what I had to do is figure out its value for me. Depression for me was a response to the trauma that I had been experiencing my whole life, but it also was just kind of a state of being that became my baseline. I think such a huge part of the depression that came on to me as I started to get older in my childhood is just the weight of everything that had happened. It was literally pressing me down, depressing me. Jim Carrey, I saw him say something one time about depression. If you are depressed, it means that you need deep rest from this burden you've been carrying. And that resonated so profoundly with me. So much of the time, depression just needs to be felt and seen and held and loved. We need to love ourselves in that low place. And to recognize our own healing and need for self-care. I had to slow down and get still enough with myself to recognize my own depression and to see the value in it. For me, the value was a need for deep rest, and it was a need for healing that I didn't realize. My body and my mind were just telling me, you need deep rest. You have not rested in your life and you need to rest. A flower, a seed, a tree, everything grows when there is deep rest. Everything in nature, dogs, cats, they sleep so much of the time. Rest is so nourishing, and we are programmed to believe that rest is shameful. Another thing that depression was for me, that I realized its value, was that I was terrified of the unknown, mostly because of trauma probably, but I was terrified of the unknown. I was terrified of breaking old patterns. And so when I could recognize that I was afraid to break old patterns, it helped me be motivated to start to actually really work on those patterns and breaking them up, even if it was scary. Another situation in my life that I had to really swallow my pride and figure out what its value was my multiple sclerosis diagnosis. I had to really figure out what I needed from multiple sclerosis. What was its value in my life? Such a huge part of that was, again, healing and a need for rest, a need for help in my life. I felt alone. I felt scared. I was completely overwhelmed. And my body responded to that. My body was letting me know, you need to rest. You need help. You also need attention. I had not received enough attention in my life as a child. I was not held and comforted and nurtured enough. And so my body eventually was just shutting down and letting me know, you need nurturing, you need love, you need attention, you need to be seen and appreciated. And so much of that I could do myself. I could go back and heal myself in the way of giving myself all of the things that I needed as a child. So far as to even ask my inner child, what do you want today? And my inner child to say, I want to go to an ice cream store and get 2 different kinds of ice cream, and I want them in 2 different cones because I don't want them to mix. That's something I wanted to do as a child. And so I can take myself out and get that ice cream and enjoy that and nourish the inner child that was hurting and asking for help. So that is something in my life that I have had to learn so profoundly to really regain my power and to receive healing in my own life is, oh, hi, Jesus, Kate. I can see you. You're beautiful. Um, in my own life is I had to find the value in my dysfunction. I had to find the value in reacting to triggers. Was I using my triggers for control of my husband, to manipulate something, to get what I wanted in some subconscious way? This work takes a lot of just pulling back and observing the thoughts that you're thinking without judgment and without shame. Eckhart goes on to say, let's see, he says, the ego creates separation and separation creates suffering. Apart from the obvious ones, such as anger, hatred, and so on, there are other more subtle forms of negativity that are so common that they are usually not recognized as such. For example, impatience, irritation, nervousness, and being fed up. They constitute the background unhappiness that is many people's predominant inner state. You need to be extremely alert and absolutely present to be able to detect them. So that is the real beginning of the awakening process, is creating awareness, to create alertness around the thoughts that you're thinking and around the states that you find yourself naturally being at. What is your baseline? Is your baseline misery? A lot of people's baseline is literally misery. Here are some of the most common unconscious thoughts that feed the feeling of discontent or background resentment. There is something that needs to happen in my life before I can be at peace or happy or fulfilled, and I resent that it hasn't happened yet. Maybe my resentment will finally make it happen. Have you ever thought thoughts like that? What about this? Something happened in the past that should not have happened, and I resent that. If that hadn't happened, I would be at peace now. Is that something that you find yourself saying? If this didn't happen, I would be at peace, but because this did, I can't be at peace. Something is happening now that should not be happening, and it is preventing me from being at peace. Often the unconscious beliefs are directed toward a person, and so happening becomes doing. You should do this or that so that I can be at peace, and I resent that you haven't done it yet. Maybe my resentment will make you do it. So, we use resentment in our relationships to get the person to do what we want. And if we can recognize that, we can kind of start to chip away at that. Something you did or said or failed to do in the past is preventing me from being at peace now. Or what you are doing or failing to do now is preventing me from being at peace right now. All of the above assumptions, unexamined thoughts that are confused with reality. All of the above are assumptions, unexamined thoughts that are confused with reality. They are stories the ego creates to convince you that you cannot be at peace now or cannot be fully yourself. The ego literally runs on discontent. The ego does not want you to realize that you can be at peace right now. But Eckhart Tolle goes on to tell us how we can be at peace right now. How to be at peace now? By making peace with the present moment. The present moment is the field on which the game of life happens. It cannot happen anywhere else. Once you have made peace with the present moment, see what happens, what you can do or choose to do, or rather what life does through you. There are 3 words that convey the secret of the art of living, the secret of all success and happiness: one with life. Being one with life is being one with now. You then realize that you don't live your life, but life lives you. Life is the dancer, and you are the dance. On an even deeper level, I would say you are both the dancer and the dance, because we cannot separate ourselves from all that is. How Have I learned to make peace with the now, with the present moment? Well, this season, more than any other season in my life, has taught me that. And it seems like ultimate tragedy or the very most difficult things in our life either force us into a place of extreme bitterness or a place of surrender. And I'm very grateful that I was learning these principles before I experienced a very difficult loss in my life. These principles have helped me come to a state of acceptance, although the grieving process is so all over the place and nonlinear, and I'm just being with myself through the entire grieving process, trying to feel my way all the way through it, and really learning every lesson I can. And one of the most profound lessons that I have learned is to make peace with the present moment. Life is dancing, life is moving, and there is so much we cannot control. And I used to think that the awakening process had to do with control, like learning to take control of my life. I wanted to take control of my happiness, to control of what is going on around me. And the most liberating realization is to just understand that we can't control much, and to just let go and to surrender to life and to just be here for all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, the tragic, the happy, the joyful. It's all true. It's all the same, two sides of the same coin. Darkness and light are truly one. And so as you go throughout your day, maybe you could find a little pocket of stillness for yourself to start to really notice the thoughts that you're thinking. Notice the way that you're speaking to yourself. Notice if there's any level of misery, and see if you can kind of start to detect the value that you receive from that negativity in your life. Please like and comment on this post, on this episode. I would love to be able to share myself with as many people as possible, share a message of light and love and healing and presence. I want you to know that if you are alone today, if you're feeling lonely, that you are not alone, that you are one with this earth, that this earth holds you, loves you, cares for you, provides for you, and that I can be a friend to you too. If you want to reach out to me, I promise I will respond. You are not alone, and you are loved, and things always get better. If there's one thing that I've learned about nature, is that the sun is always there. Even if it's completely covered up by clouds right now, the sun always comes out. Everything in life is temporary. Every feeling is temporary. Don't give up. Keep going and reach out if you need help. I love you. Billy loves you. And we will see you next time. Namaste.